The Cabinet Secretary to the Treasury, Professor Ndongo, is at that event, and so that is one of the events that we are keeping tabs on. And also today, there's going to be the handover officially by the to the new Managing Director of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Ms. Agnes Ngona. It's happening at Broadcasting House. The man who has been acting as Managing Director, Mr. Paul Masheria, is going to be handing over all that, and also the chairman is going to be present. Our chairman is Mr. Tom Mishindi. So those are the conversations that we are keeping tabs on, amongst other things, as we go through this. Remember, you can get interactive. Our hashtag is SportsCheckKBC. So straight to our first conversation, and this is about a conference that took place about 10 days ago, and it was at the Strathmore University, and it was a sports round table. Conversations have been held around this, and there are global summits. For example, one that is known as Sportal, where they go and converse about sport, business, especially from the sports side of it, which is a very big talking conversations. What were the outcomes of those conversations? And to do that, far left, I've got Richard Wanjoy. He's from the Strathmore University. He's a data scientist with them. Richard, welcome.
Thank you, Daniel.
And we've got the CEO of Icon Sports Marketing, Grace Kiragori, who was one of the panelists at that event. Grace, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with you, Richard. As after hosting this event, it was a one-day event where conversations were held. What were the experiences from you and from Strathmore's perspective of how the participants brought out the knowledge that you seek to find?
Thank you very much, Daniel, for hosting us once again. What we said when we were setting up the roundtable, or what we're trying to call the Sports Business and Innovation Hub within the Strathmore University, we look at the sports ecosystem and how it exists currently in the country. If you look at what the contribution is, it's less than 0.5% to the GDP. But if you look at the impact that that could have, if then we look at sports as a commercial and also social disruption, is that it can impact between 5 to 10%, if not more. What we did was that we started this conversation and we looked at the legal aspects, we looked at the commercialization, and we also had a bit of conversation with the sports media. Why we took those three stones as our foundation is because when we look at sports as is currently, we are grappling with a lot of legal issues. If you look at the different federations that we have, if you look at the commercialization aspects, a lot of teams are still struggling, getting sponsors, getting funding. If then now we go back to the coverage, as I was saying when we were last year, none of the media houses has a sports edition beyond the Saturday and Sunday weekend coverage. So that's
this is Monday.
This is Monday, and this is
the exception.
This is the exception to the rule, and we are grateful for that. Yeah. So when we look at all that, then all these aspects were covered, and the participants were quite vibrant and shared their own experiences and also what they need to see done in sports in the next couple of years.
Well, Grace, let's now first talk about this, and this is from the commercial aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Having worked in sports marketing, what are some of the things that, the conversations that you picked up and some of the contributions that you may have made to this?
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a brilliant opportunity for us to be able to showcase what the potential there is in sports. And I think that is what the forum or the roundtable at Strathmore aimed to amplify, that sports is not just a hobby. Sports is not just something we do. It's something we go and earn a living. And not only us, many people around the sports ecosystem are earning a living. But it is not structured. So the commercial sector, we don't necessarily are able to see, to reap the benefits. So we need to be able to categorize sports as a business. And what do I mean by that? If you're running a business, you wake up every morning, you have a business plan. Why are we as a country or as sports organizations not developing a strategic plan that can allow us to commercialize the business? A business plan, as a business person, who I am, which is what I am, I believe I can't wake up every day and have got no sense of where I'm going. So what I feel, what the conversations that we had on that day were able to bring out what the potential that there is in the sports industry, and then the challenges that are facing the sports industry, so that we are not able to fully commercialize. And for me, particularly, I was very keen on identifying that we must have a strategic plan as a country And this strategic plan is where all other sports personalities and all sports individuals, everybody's doing their own small things here. But what if you were to plug in into a bigger picture that drives the nation? That is what South Africa has done. South Africa has a strategic plan from 2020 to 2025. And they plug in into that, and there is a constant review of how is everybody doing. So first and foremost, to start off this conversation for me would be the absence or the lack of a game plan. I mean, we need to develop. I think there is, but it is disjointed. What if you were able to harness all that? It turned into a beautiful business. Remember, the sports ecosystem is not just the athlete. It is we, including you, Wahome. You're a business person in sports because you're benefiting from the sports sector because there's journalism. We're benefiting from the sports sector because there's marketing. Is benefiting from the sports sector because there's data. So it's an all-round photography, journalism, merchandising, branding. It's such a big ecosystem if you were only to harness it into a strategic direction.
Let me just pull in on something. You could just give us some insight into what you picked from what the South Africans have.
Yeah.
Knowing that they would focus on some key sports, I would pick straight off rugby, cricket,
and football.
And football.
Yes. And to some extent, golf.
And yes, and golf.
Yes.
Actually, golf is big there.
It's big.
They have their
Yes.
own. They have the sunshine tour.
Exactly.
So it's huge.
It's huge.
So what is it that they have done, and the review methods that they use?
So what the South Africans have done is, first and foremost, at the beginning of the 5-year strategic plan, is sit down and with each and every of them, identify the stakeholders in the sports sector. They've identified the stakeholders who are people from the business community, the federations of sports, the Ministry of Sports. Actually, I think they call it the Ministry of Arts, Culture. It's the same, almost the same duplication as ours, yeah? So what they do at the beginning is they invite so many of those stakeholders, and each stakeholder owns a part of the strategic plan. And therefore, after that, there's a reporting mechanism as to how are we doing with golf. Look at them, they look at it from a sports tourism, because it's really, really huge for them. They'll be looking at it as driving foreign direct investment, because people are coming in, there's accommodation, there's transport. So everybody in that ecosystem is reviewing. And every year, I think it's biannual, if I'm not wrong, I'll check, but it's biannual. There's a reporting mechanism of how are we plugging into the national plan as golf. How are we plugging into national plans as rugby? And therefore, and are there gaps that we can do to amplify it bigger? So the whole strategy is owned right from the sports athlete to the top level government and to all other stakeholders in the industry. And after 5 years, they'll meet again and review, and they'll be able to tell, because numbers don't lie. He's here as a data analyst. Money is in numbers. They will be seeing the volume of business trickling into the country, both directly and indirectly. They'll be looking at the social growth. They'll be looking at the economic growth. They'll be looking at how their sports have been developed, because they tie it into two aspects: the commercial part of the business and also sports for development.
All right. Richard, do you want to weigh in on that? Because when it comes to numbers, there is a book known as How to Lie with Statistics.
You can only lie so far with the numbers. And I'll give you perspective. In the last 3 to 5 years, the average sponsorship, sports sponsorship in this economy is between 3 to 5 billion. We can increase that if you look at the...
That is the entire sports. That is what is publicly available.
Publicly available.
Yeah.
But if you look at the pockets that Grace was talking about, that can extend all the way to 10 billion. And if you look at what the betting companies have done, there's a lot of opportunity and growth within that sports sector. Alluding to what Grace has just said, South Africa launched their development plan. Nigeria has also done the same, and they're coming big, because then they're doing even, not just the infrastructure. It's a whole game changer for them. Remember, Nigeria were big on football and a lot of these athletics and short distances,
yes.
But now they're coming with a wholesome document that they want, categorize sports that they can become strong in, and also leverage on that with their infrastructure and also the economy. So for us as a country, as Kenya, we are not yet there. We are saying that let's grab this opportunity. 60 years on, we do not have a strategic plan, as what Grace has said. Can we structure something that can give us a perspective that we can say in the next 5 years, this is what Kenya can achieve? One, we can qualify for major regional and continental championships. Secondly, let's get the infrastructure right. And I think that's where the government has sort of put some 2 steps, but maybe 3 steps back. Commercial interests. If you look at all the corporates that we have currently, they have an inkling of sports sponsorship. But if we put the infrastructure right and put the mechanisms in place, then they'll plug in big.
Yes, Grace.
I wanted to just mention that maybe in Kenya the strategic plan exists, but when we searched on the internet, the way you'll find Australia, the way you'll find South Africa, we will not find Kenya. So maybe this could also be a challenge to find, maybe the Ministry of Sport could be having a strategic document. The last document that reflects sports in Kenya is actually Vision 2030, and it is not updated. So we as participants, as stakeholders, could be aware that there could be an existing document that supports the strategic direction of sports in Kenya, but it's not available to us as the players. So maybe again a forum to ask the ministry. Wahome, you could ask for us. You could ask for us.
I could ask for you. I can also refer you to the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. There is actually a section where they talk about that, and infrastructure is part of it, and the Talanta Hela program. Yeah. But let me come to this, because we've, over the last 4 months, I mean, you always find some little drama tending to show up here and there when it comes to governance.
Yeah.
And as a go-between between probably the corporate world and a sporting entity, what is it that they say in between? Because I know governance was
governance was a big. Okay, let me pick it from where we picked it last time. We were able to notice that in the entire sporting sector, actually, governance is a very big issue because of the election system, the overstaying of some of the governing, leaders, and the fact that the accounts or whatever are not made easily available or public. It makes it a governance issue. And what is the effect of that? Sponsors pull away. If you're a corporate, you want to work with a transparent organization, you want to see that they can audit the money that you give them, you want to see that they can account for every penny. But what you find is that this has become a deterrent for corporates or sponsors to want to go big time in sports in some of these federations. We've got sponsors who've pulled out from very, very, very big events that can drive this nation, events that can become brands. We've seen sponsors pulling away 100 million worth of sponsorship, pulling away from a federation or from a certain sports sector because of the fact that there was no transparency. So for us in that forum, as the stakeholders in the round table, we were reinforcing the fact that we cannot be sitting, the sports sector cannot be sitting there with open hands, waiting to receive, but they're not able to showcase what they're doing with the money. And that becomes a very big audit query. So I think in terms of that, I would amplify that we can't separate ourselves from governance. We can't separate ourselves from systems and structures that drive a business. If you're a CEO of a business, like you rightfully called me, although I'm a founding director, I'm a founding director because the business is currently on ice after COVID. However, it's important to say that as a person driving the business, you must be responsible, and the buck stops with you. But do we have that responsibility as leaders in the sports sector? That I do not want to be on air saying yes or no, but it's out there. We are having very, very, very many wrangles.
Richard, let me just say, what was, from the federations, what is it that they were saying? Because I think some time back, Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba had a conversation with federation people, especially those that are tied to the Olympics. Yeah. And he simply said, we can't afford to have fights. You can't be coming to fight in my office. Openly, in front of him.
So interesting, we invited over 15 sports federations, the major ones. Only one honored our invite.
Which federation?
Kenya Rugby Union,
okay,
represented by none other than the president, Sasha Mutai, who stayed with us for the bigger portion of that session.
So 14 did not show up?
14 didn't show up. One responded, but they never actualized the invitation, because then they just responded that they had received the invitation. So we expected they would show up. So that, again, reflects on what we are talking about. If you're not ready to be queried, if you're not ready to be open about your affairs, then don't expect any support either from corporate or from the government. Yeah. And remember, we have over 35 sports federations. And I think there are even more if you count the
35 are the Olympic affiliated federations are 36.
36. If you look at then the ecosystem, is that all these, at least half of those should have come in. Because what we're telling them, be open for scrutiny, be open to share what your ideals, what your goals as a federation are. Then we can plug in and tell you, this is where you need the business people. This is where you need academia to do your research, to do your data. Then now we can present a case and put this forward to the ministry or to the relevant stakeholders to build upon that.
Let's talk, amongst the other things that people want, and we're seeing this, fan engagement.
Yeah.
because sports business is purely it's considered
Borders.
entertainment.
Yeah.
How is the fan engagement numbers that you see here? For example, I will tell you, athletics, big sport, but at times
No numbers.
the numbers on the seats are not there. Football, not performing very well, but you will know if I go to this event, it's packed. What's being done around that?
Me to go?
Yeah, Grace.
Yeah, this was another very topical issue during the roundtable. Why? Because we are saying we want to develop sports, but we have to also develop the experience for those coming to be spectators. And I quote a very big example of how the US drives spectatorship. You find they have, it's a party, it's called tailgating. They have the before party and everybody in that town, if the game is happening, say, in Boston, the engagement is very heavy and everyone will line up to support their fans. It doesn't matter. We will have a game here or an athletic event, but we won't have those numbers. Why? Because we've also not developed a strategic direction on how we are going to engage our fans. Fans don't just show up. Fans come for an experience, fans come for entertainment, fans come to cheer you. But you who is a federation, what plan have you put in place? Like how accessible are our tickets? How do our stadiums or environment where they're going to come and sit look like? You hear people complaining of basic amenities not lacking in our infrastructure. Again, we come back to infrastructure. Who wants to go to a place where toilets, all those things? I'm just used to it as one of them, but there are very many other things that can make you, as a fan, not want to go. Security of yourself. So you find that if we are going to match the fan experience experienced by other people who attend all other international games, what have they done what can we borrow from them that we can do in Kenya? And that is what, again, could be lacking. Like if I want to say, I want to come and, like for instance, why was the Kipchoge Keino Classic not filled to capacity? It's an athletic event where everybody should have been present. So are we developing a culture of it's ours and we want to have it? It has to be part of the strategic plan. I'm coming back to saying that you don't just sit there and put a game and expect fans to come. What is the experience? What are they going to take? Remember, they've come to watch the game, to cheer, but there's something else, because you can't separate sports and entertainment. You can't separate sports from a spectator experience. That is what I think we have not maximized. We have not developed it to the fully.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that now comes down to a case of communication. Where a federation tends to rely on their sponsors for communication.
Yeah.
We have seen that, and when they try to do it themselves, when you rely on people who've got the hype, who can do the hype, social media, they can use traditional mainstream media, or other disruptors. At what risk are these federations? I'll use the Safari Sevens as a case in point.
Interesting, because she's a former Safari Sevens organizer, so she'll share her case.
Yeah.
But I'll start from your question. If you look at our sports...
Actually, I can use specific years, 2013 and 2014. Same venue, Kasarani.
Yeah.
One without the sponsor's noise, the other with the sponsor's noise.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if you look at sports federation, you have to own your narrative.
Yeah.
I think Kenya Rugby, maybe Athletics Kenya, those are the two main ones that I see doing their own content, and maybe now the National Olympics Committee. Most of the other federations, you look for basic information like current players, national selection, a database of their players. That data is missing, and that is very basic information that you can have either an intern or someone enter for you. So if you look at our sports federations, if then you can't own your own database or information that you have of the registered clubs, the registered personnel that are working or engaging in that sport, then don't go to a sponsor and tell them this is the visibility that I'll give you in case I propose an event. We talked about the Kipchoge Classic. I was in that stadium for that event. Yeah. First of all, the logistics were all messed up because then accessing the stadium, it was a nightmare. Secondly, they did not factor in the elements. And I think by the time the 100 meters race was happening, it was all helter-skelter because of
I was there. Actually, I was there. I know what the rain chose the correct time, 5:45 p.m.
Exactly.
To disrupt the event.
Yes.
And I've done this 3 years consecutively. It has become a family favorite for us. So if you look at that experience, You as a federation, are you making me, Richard, to go out to the stadium to enjoy these experiences?
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a family tradition. It becomes a place that I can call my friends and tell them, let's catch up at the Sevens. Let's catch up at Kenya Open. Let's catch up at the Kipkeino Classic. So if then, as a federation, you're not doing anything, first of all, to just work on your basics, then don't expect anyone else to come and clean your house for you.
And maybe to add on that is to remember the marketing element. Remember, I'm heavy on sports marketing. The marketing, you build a brand, and a brand has a promise. What are you promising to come? So if you say you're building a brand like Safari Sevens, then I expect some... when we began the Safari Sevens as a brand, there was some engagement of the funds by the Rugby Ministry of Rugby, people who build the brand. But when the federations disrupt that, and you break the brand, rebuilding a brand, you have to do a rebranding strategy. So once you break a brand, you kill it. So is there a mechanism for us to build a brand and build this such that if I think Safari Sevens, I think fun, I think patriotism, I think Kenya Rugby Sevens, I think I'm going to see some awesome rugby, the Fiji is coming. There was some fundamentals that brand had shaped up. And the same happens to Magical Kenya. If you, and it's a brand.
Yes.
Look at World Rallies.
WRC, the World Rally Champion, the Safari Rally.
Exactly. What has happened, Vasha has become a sudden craze where somebody is building some communication around it and hyping it. But if we don't do that and we sit back as federation and expect only the sponsors, it won't work.
And now, okay, let me give Richard some numbers to go, think about. First of all, it was said that in 2021 when the rally went there, Safaricom picked up 30,000 people who had never been to Naivasha.
I can give you a good example. I was at the spectator stage at Kasarani. We had between 50 to 100,000 spectators. Kasarani spectator stage. And if you get the coverage, especially if you get the chopper, that experience, even for me, I was like,
in awe.
We had guys driving all the way from Kampala, coming to see the safari.
Do you know they were brought in by Magical Kenya? 3 buses.
Wow. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So if you look at that ecosystem, and now you go now to Naivasha. Naivasha, I went as well. I was there for 2 nights. You look at the activations that happened in that town. I think people slept for between 8 to 12 hours maximum, because you're waking up, the next thing you're in an activation, you're moving to the next joint.
Yeah.
There was traffic.
Strategy.
From on your way to Olkaria, the whole 2 or 3 days. So that just creates that verve and that energetic feel about an event. And if you look at, for example, that you've said the safari, Las Vegas last year hosted the F1. By the time they were done, 3 months after the event, they were out with a report first to cover the business element, just the impact on the business environment, the impact on the infrastructure within the city, because then they were
using the streets.
Yes, they were using the streets.
Exactly.
They were forced to do a new driveway.
Exactly.
If you look at the impact on the environment, all those things, so they are able to give that information in very good detail. I can send that report to you.
Yeah.
Are we able to do that for the safari here in Kenya?
Actually, I believe one exists. I think we'll talk to Charles Gashero now.
If Las Vegas
Yeah.
if Las Vegas can give us the report in 3 months, why can't we get for the safari in 1?
We'll get that one. Now, the other one that is coming up is technology. It's disrupted the whole sports ecosystem. Every federation now has moved, not just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're moving to TikTok. What's this disruption that's happening?
So again, I think everything is interconnected, and I remember this is what the message Sasha gave us when he was leaving. If you look at your fans, what are your average fans' age right now? Ages between 18, maybe even lower, 15 to 30, 35. You and I are pensioners in this space. If you look at that age group, if you look at that age group, most of them are on TikTok. So then you have to appeal to that audience. I'll give you an example as a university. The way we launched our TikTok channel, it's someone who vented against the statutes that we have as a university. And that gave us credits to be able to get to that platform, because our audience of people who are coming to the university are between the ages of 18 to 22. And what are they doing? They're basically on TikTok. So you have to provide communication, or you have to provide some sort of engagement that they can have with that platform. So it's the same for sports federation. You have to look at the social media platforms that you have to engage with.
Exactly.
If you do TikTok, that's for fun engagement. If you do LinkedIn, that's for corporate engagement. If you look at Twitter, that's for the masses or maybe breaking stories. So you have to have a comprehensive structure, a plan, again, as we talk about. You cannot do these things, haphazardly.
Solution, yeah.
Challenge to National Olympics. We are headed to the Olympics in a month and a half. Do we have all our athletes on social media?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody from NOC is coming, so I'll tell them that. but you also have to, and okay, then how do you break through some of the cultural barriers? Because we know that some of our athletes are extremely reserved. There are those who engage, they've got the social media platforms, but Omanyala can go noisy at any point.
Yeah.
Eliud Kipchoge's team does
his communication
for him. But how, Kenya Sevens, they've got the KRU, they do that for them.
Very well.
Very well. How do you optimize this? And there's the new space, online, which is actually disrupting any other advertising platform.
Yeah, maybe I can start. I think it is important for everyone to recognize that that's the way the world is going. You cannot be left behind and expect. It's the same has happened to businesses. We once in a while were trading physically, taking documents. Now we do everything tender, everything we do it online. So if the businesses are moving to the technology, because that's where the new era is, it means you as an athlete have to move with the times. And I got people who are saying there's a cultural barrier, we are reserved. How do we break this? You don't have to do it yourself. Sports marketing allows you to look for an agent. You don't expect Kipchoge to be tweeting every minute. I mean, it's going to be running. He can't. He will do once in a while speak to media, but he has managed to engage. So I'm saying, what could I say when I'm trying to say that? Let other people do your business and you manage your business. Your business is running. And sometimes these athletes think it's expensive. It's not. We've got university interns who will help you tweet and create content for you because you're not a content creator. So how about if we let the athletes and the sports do what they need to do, but take advantage of the ecosystem around them and maximize. I was telling somebody, you do not need a professional marketer to help you or to be on social media. You just need a young mind, a very young mind, brilliant content, because they have understood the language, the lingua of social media. Let them give you that gap, and all you do is go run. And therefore, I'm saying Omanyala can do it. Eliud Kipchoge has done it, and he's done it very well. And maybe he's got the capacity to outsource. But even the other upcoming athlete, it is not costing money. You could even have, I even normally say, start them with your own nephew or your cousin. Ask them, and then tell them, the minute I'll break barriers in terms of money, you'll be my first beneficiary. Let me tell you, because they have a lot of time on their hands, and they're on their gadgets. They will help create content for you. And that's where we all need to move. And also as federations, do we have a social media page? Do we have a place we can amplify our players? Do we have a place we can amplify what they're currently doing so that we push them even as they push themselves and as we support them to break the cultural barrier on social media? We just have to break it. I don't think we have a choice. The world is going this way. You can't be going backward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Richard.
Let me give you an example. In 2012, when David Rudisha was in London Olympics, for some odd reason, we had a gut feeling that he was going to break the world record. What happens to David Rudisha? He's not on social media. And if he's on social media, I think the last time his page had been updated was either a couple of weeks or a month.
He was an ambassador for the World Athletics event, yes.
Yeah.
So his visibility was so little. He got 3 or 4 major sponsors from the UK who wanted to carry his brand. But what happens? Because he has no social media presence, he has no visibility, they have to drop him. So what I'm saying is that is 12 years ago. Currently, if you're not on social media as a sport, the minute you have qualified to represent Kenya on the national team, the next thing you should be doing is opening social media pages. Have someone to update for you. I'll give the example of our Vice Chancellor, who's fairly older than most of us. He has visibility on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. He's regularly updating us on his VC run and telling us, this is what I'm doing on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. So if you have that as an academic person, who are you as a sports person not to be on these platforms?
They say professors are dull, but that is different. All right, we'll be taking a break conversation from the business of sport, but let's join our reporter Joseph Wakungu, who's with Health Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni, let's get to hear it. Wakungu, over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Daniel Wahome. Indeed, you are coming to you live from the Pan-Africa Hotel right here in the city. We are here very much privileged to be with the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Mary Muthoni, who is going to brief us about a very important event that is coming up next month, and that is the World Food Day celebrations. And we just want to know from the Minister of Health and indeed from the government just how secure is our food out there and what else we need to do to ensure that we eat secure food. So without much ado, I'm joined here with the PS, Mary Muthoni. Welcome to this live broadcast. Please tell us about the World Food Day celebration that is coming up next month.
Thank you very much. And we are excited that we are in another year, and we will be celebrating the World Food Safety Day on the 7th of June. The celebrations will start from the 4th of June with activities across the counties, and I'm encouraging all the counties to participate in cleanup exercises so that we are able to achieve that which we have planned. Food safety is a very critical issue, and it's the business of everybody to ensure that your food is safe. In the world, every year, approximately 600 million people fall ill from food, contaminated food. And this translates to about 1 in 10 people globally experiencing foodborne diseases. So you can see how critical it is. And if we have to reduce this, then we have to work hard to ensure that we follow the 5 WHO keys, that we keep food clean, we separate raw and cooked food, we cook thoroughly, we cook the food thoroughly, we ensure that we keep food at safe temperatures. We also ensure that we use safe water and raw materials. We already have the Food and Feed bill that is in Parliament right now, and we are very keen to have it passed and signed, because what is happening right now, there's a lot of disintegrated operation among the players, from development partners, private sector, the MDAs, the ministries. So we want to put people together for better coordination, so that should there be inspection, then we are able to know who goes to inspect the food in the food spaces. Therefore, this bill is very critical for us this year, and we hope that it is going to be passed and signed. Prevention and promotion is a very key area. The President launched the 100,000 community health promoters. We have skilled them, we have kitted them, and they are in the field. And right now we are reviewing their curriculum so that we can continue training them. And these are people who are also going to help us with the health promotion, communication to the households, to ensure they know what it requires of them to keep food safe. That you should not eat food that is cold. It is important you eat food when it is hot, while it is still hot. And the community health promoters will spread this to the households. Ensure that they use clean water when they are cleaning the fruits. Ensure that they drink clean water equally. Ensure they boil water probably, or even use chlorine to make sure that the water that they are taking is safe. Therefore, we are collaborating with different stakeholders, that is from the private sector, development partners, institutions of government, institutions of, because of financing, we will need to fundraise together. The coordination will help us fundraise together. We will also be able to pass the information in a coordinated way to the masses, so that we do not have one group passing a different information to the masses. Therefore, that is why we will be celebrating the World Food Safety Day on the 7th of July.
Where are we going to have the national celebrations?
We are going to have the celebration in different counties, but the national celebration will be here in Nairobi. On the 4th, we will be in Nyandarua for a cleanup, and all the other counties will be doing some activities across the country.
So
we can have the private sector say something?
Yes, Daniel Wahome, if you allow me, I'll just talk to one person from the private sector also to contribute to tell us what they're planning to ensure that World Food Safety is a success. Ma'am, please start by introducing yourself and tell us how you're coming in to ensure that the celebration is a success.
Thank you very much. My name is Wamboi Mbarire. I run the Retail Trade Association of Kenya, here speaking on behalf of food business operators. As we approach the World Food Safety Day, our keen interest is one that government, as the PS has said, will fast-track the food and feed safety bill, coordination bill, because that will make the work of the implementers, who are the people who use the bill, easier when we're dealing with a body that has a reach to all the people dealing with food. We say that the responsibility of safe food is an individual responsibility, much as the government has the right and the power to implement and enforce. Each human being needs to be able to get the comfort of knowing that they're consuming safe food. So our appeal is to the Kenyan consumer. Ask the questions of where is my food coming from? How has it been grown? There is more to it than just the environment within which the food is being served. But are we able to trace what I am eating from farm to fork? And if we, as consumers, ask those hard questions, then the food operator will take more interest in ensuring that what is being served is safe, and the farmer will ensure that what they are growing, the transporter will ensure that the system around which they transport the food is safe, so that the food at the table can be confirmed as being safe. So we ask a concerted effort for government, retailers. The consumer is very key, because if they demand, the rest will follow in place.
So, correct, Daniel. I think just one more stakeholder for us before we wrap it up. Ma'am, how are you? Please tell us your name and how you're coming in these celebrations.
Thank you very much. My name is Pil Mogor. I'm from the Royal Danish Embassy, and I'm the Strategic Sector Councillor between the Kenyan government and the Danish government. And I'm coming into this as a councillor around food safety area. And my appeal today is for the private sector in Kenya to support the food safety issue, to take responsibility, to ensure that the food safety for the Kenyan citizen is in place, that they are comfortable eating their food, but also because of economic growth, because of taking opportunity and taking advantage of the new economic agreement with the EU. It needs to be the private sector who steps into this space and ensures that what they produce 365 days a year, when nobody else is there to inspect them, that is safe and that is good for eating, for trade, and for economic growth. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. And of course, from Nairobi, we will be here, of course, to ensure that World Food Day celebrations is marked in a good way. Back to you in the studio.
Very much, Joseph Okungu. He is at the Pan-African Hotel in Nairobi, and this is where there was a meeting, and this is to plan for the World Food Safety Day that is slated for the 7th of June 2024. He'll be giving us that report in our subsequent bulletins. We now continue with our conversation, and this is about the business of sports. In studio with me is Grace Kiragori, who's in sports marketing and a data scientist at Strathmore University, hosted a roundtable around business, the business of sport, 10 days ago, Richard Wanjohi. So let me now come to something that everyone's talking about. You know, we keep talking about statistics here. For example, we just give you some odd numbers. Gor Mahia have had the first players who have won 6 league titles with them. That means it's gone past John Bobby Ogola and Tobias Ochola. Yes. And who's the other one? Odwar. So the first one to get 6. Gor now have 21 titles. But in the EPL, people know very strange numbers. So those are 2 matches played yesterday. Manchester City, everyone knows their goals, the stadium capacity. How do you use this data now to push for the business of sport, Richard?
Again, own your narrative. And I love the example that you've given, Gor Mahia, the biggest club or the biggest football club that we have in Kenya. Do you have the data from the time the club was started? How many players do you know have played for the club? How much data are you collecting on a daily basis when you're having your games, game day? From all the passes made, all those interceptions. How rich is that data, and how can we decipher it? Because if then you don't give us something to chew on, we'll not be able to give you the statistics that you just shared.
I think I know of one data hawker.
Maybe it's one that you're working with, and I think that's the sort of conversation that we want to drive. All these clubs can, if this is not your core business, you can sublet someone to do your data collection. Exactly. And this can be all the way from training, match day, then, just review all these conversations relating to the matches. What's your fan engagement? For example, the way you just said, 3 players have won 5 titles with Gor Mahia. It's only the first one that we're having who's won 6 titles. I'll give you an example of Tanzania. And I think this is where now we keep blowing our trumpet, but we don't know what's happening in the region. Azam, which is now the biggest club in Eastern Central Africa, has over 100,000 followers online. If you look at all their platforms, from Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, they're huge on those platforms. I can almost get the annual reports that they've had for the last 3 years. I can tell you the media rights that they got from Azam TV, screening their matches. I can tell you the major sponsors that they have for their team. I can tell you the championships that they participated in. What about Gor Mahia? The last time we wanted to go into international continental championship, we had a small issue that we had not resolved from the legal aspect. Yeah. So we could not go to continental championship.
That's last season.
Exactly. Yeah. And
just a year ago.
Have we addressed those issues? And are we going to have a similar scenario when they have to go to continental championships?
And just to add on that, as those clubs package themselves, I speak very strongly from a marketing perspective. Now, when you talk about narratives, those are the stories now we should be packaging, because marketing is also about storytelling. PR is about, PR. It's about storytelling. It's how well you can tell your story. So for me, you've used Manchester or whatever you've used. Do you know how those clubs have invested in their storytelling? They have crazy investment. In fact, when I was called for this roundtable, I did a bit of research, and I was looking at how businesses like clubs like Arsenal, I know I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I'm just saying, I used Arsenal club. Their data is so available. The capacity, they sell their tickets way before the season. They know the match now. They know the revenue right by sitting there, because all the tickets have gone online. So why are they being able to do that? Because they have taken it as a business. So as we are here, we don't want to show the numbers that were there at the stadium, because because those numbers, the money, again, I come back to governance. I keep revolving that. If you go to the Arsenal books, or even, I actually studied three clubs. I did Real Madrid, I did Arsenal. Don't ask me why I didn't do Man U, and that's where my son focuses on, because he kept pushing me to do Man U. And then I also did All Blacks. These are very well documented case studies of how they've managed their business, the business of sports. And their biggest drive is the numbers they maximize on. If you're a fan, you receive an update. See, they have your data. Update of, see that data you're talking about, these guys has won. All members of Gor Mahia by this morning should be having a regular update of when are we selling the new shirt. Our new shirt looks like this. The new season shirt looks like this. I should be knowing what my shirt looks like. Do I know for local here? We're not. So why are we not aping what those big, we have got the case studies and they're online. Why don't we duplicate? So apart from getting data, for me, when Joey will focus on getting data, but I'll focus on, after I get that data, what do I do with it? I use it for marketing. I use it to amplify my voice. I use it as a storytelling tool. And that is what we are not harnessing locally. Like, you have that information with you because you're a media person. They probably told you.
No, but we follow. We know.
Yeah, but I'm saying you will know. But isn't that now a club bragging point? This should be the story that tells that every sponsor wants to go there because of the goodness that they have. But we're not balancing that storytelling. Yeah, that's my view.
Let's talk about, the contractual obligations, agreements, and intellectual property. I know it's a big conversation. For example, like the case of Gor Mahia, it was a case of FIFA legal. They couldn't sign players. AFC Leopards have had that. And then in football, there's what is known as club licensing. So if you have unmet obligations, you're out.
Yeah.
What was the things that came out from the lawyers who are present?
So exactly those 2 points, player obligation or player engagements versus club contractual agreements. Everyone has to read their piece of paper. If as a player you're going to sign an obligation either with a sponsor or with a club, make sure you have a legal expert go through that document, because you're going to engage with these people, one from a professional perspective, secondly from a commercial perspective. If you look at Omanyala, Eliud Kipchoge, they are getting sponsorship deals. How are you able to do that? Because you're able to push your brand, but then you have lawyers or legal people who are advising you. This is a sort of endorsement that you can get from these brands. As a club or as a federation, do you have your legal team intact? And if you don't, do you have a legal expert who advises you on the regular? We provided this platform so that you can see there are legal experts who are dealing with sports in this particular ecosystem, and they're huge. I mean, we have people trained all the way from Spain, the UK. We have someone sitting in the FIFA disciplinary commission. We have someone sitting in the court of arbitration in Switzerland. So we have the right legal infrastructure that you can use. So all these clubs and players, please get legal advice, get as many opinions as you can before you commit pen to paper.
And what about when it comes to meeting the obligations from a marketing perspective? How do you see federations or even clubs, playing their role?
I think it's very good to read the contract that you've been given by the sponsors, or so that you're able to meet that what you've promised to deliver. A contract is an agreement between 2 people. So if you promise that I'm going to amplify your brand like this, but you'll always be wearing my brand here or here. I mean, there are details that have been put. So are we able to read that and execute? And that's how sponsorship deals last forever. Look at even a simple case as good as Eliud Kipchoge just signing up with, is it DMX for Isuzu? It's been lasting on forever. It means he is keeping to his end of the bargain. The minute you enter into a contractual agreement as a sports person that you are now representing this brand, then you need to own that brand and execute. Same to federations. The federations sometimes ask for money, and I don't like to keep quoting them. I've worked with them before. I don't like to quote them. But they don't use it for that purpose that they were meant to use it for. Sometimes they're in salary arrears. So you get a sponsorship that was meant to help you, and I do not want to quote anybody, I am very clear, but I do know that administrative-wise, again, is because of lack of structures to support them to get salary before. They now sit back there and say, we've not been paid for 6 months. Okay, so you've not been paid for 6 months. So a sponsor brings money to amplify a certain event. What do you do as a sports person, as president, and you're caught between, you have a kitty here for sponsorship, and you're caught between salary arrears? What do you tend to do? Because you play, you shift. You borrow Peter to pay Paul. What's happening? This person who gave you that money didn't give it for you for that purpose. So again, if we have good governance, if you've got good accounting, if you've got good strategy or a CEO who's got ahead together, they will know that I want to max, if Safaricom is to come back, if Kenya Airways is to come back, I must give them value for the amount of sponsorship they give me. And if you signed that the amount was to pay salaries, then you're in good books. But if you signed that the amount was for A, B, C, say accommodation, kitting, there's so many things, medical for the players, but you sneak in 6 months arrears of salary, you erode the confidence that the sponsor had with you. And that's how those contracts end up being eroded. Also, branding value. You find a sponsor will give you this. There's certain obligation for branding. Even when you're playing match days, there's a branding agreement that you've done because they're there for visibility and they're there for goodwill. So if you don't meet the end of the bargain as a federation and you don't reinforce, because you got the money, you don't even go to see how the games have been planned by the person who is putting the branding. Branding is very critical.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Richard and Grace, for that conversation. I know there's more to come. We'll be getting deep into that conversation as we do. Thank you very much, Grace Gregory and Richard Wanjohi.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
We now break, and I mentioned earlier at the start of the program that there is the handover to the Managing Director of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Ms. Agnes Kaleche Nguna, and speaking now is the Chairman of the KBC Board, Mr. Tom Mshindi.
We are very grateful to the Cabinet Secretary and the KBC Board for successfully concluding the process of searching and appointing an UMD, a person who is very qualified, very competent, and fully conversant with the reality of the current state of media in this country. And more importantly, somebody who has demonstrated a willingness to contribute to the transformation process that we are undertaking at KBC. As a board, we are really delighted that Agnes comes in at a time when there is huge opportunity in media, and particularly for the national broadcasting media, which in the face of all other issues that currently confront media, is the one most prepared and probably most qualified to survive and do well, because our role really is to serve the public as competently, as objectively, and as fairly as possible. We obviously will need to look at the reality around technology and what technology has portended for media. We have to seek out the opportunities that are there, and working very, very closely, of course, with the ministry, implement strategies that can fully bring out the opportunities and the potential for the national broadcaster. So there will be a lot of opportunities to interact, but for this morning, really, it's just to welcome Agnes into the fold, confirm that she has reported on duty, and that formally now the process of handing over starts, and it will be going on, obviously, for the next couple of days before she substantively takes charge. So, with those few remarks, I want to hand over to Bwana Macharia, whom we are very grateful for the period that he has been here, shepherded the corporation through fairly sensitive times, but has done it with a lot of courage, with a lot of astuteness, and we are very delighted that he's here and is successfully seeing over the handover process to the incoming person. So, Bwana Macharia, maybe a word or two before we welcome Agnes to give a few remarks, and then we can close this function. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is to appreciate everyone, the media, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Ms. Agnes Kaleshe Guna on her appointment by the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, Eliud Owalo, as the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation Managing Director for the next 3 years. I am certain that her experience and leadership record in the Kenyan media industry will steer this giant corporation to greater heights. KBC possesses immense potential to be a market leader in Kenya's media sector, and I can certainly say it is in great hands. Like any other player in the media industry, the corporation has been facing some challenges in terms of dealing revenue. There is also what we call the changing audience taste, and the rapidly evolving technologies, particularly in the digital spheres, coupled with the changing advertising and marketing trends. However, having served as the Chief Operating Officer at our private media, a key industry player, as well as chair of the Media Owners Association, I'm confident that MS Guna is well positioned to lead this corporation to greater heights. Mine is to call my colleagues here, heads of departments, staff, partners of the corporation, to give her all the necessary support as she embarks on this journey of transforming and steering the corporation forward, picking from its current position. During my tenure, my endeavor has been to put KBC on the right footing, working with the board, heads of departments, staff, and other stakeholders. And with your stewardship, I am certain that a great power for those words. And now we will listen to Agnes. Do you want her to move here? Okay. Might be easier.
Yeah.
Just a few remarks, and then we shall be done.
I'll just do a few. Okay. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Agnes Kalichinguna, like you've been told. I've been appointed as the new Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of our national broadcaster, KBC. I've worked in the media industry for the last 18 years across the East African region. I stand before everyone with great humility and a deep sense of responsibility as I accept the appointment as the Managing Director and CEO of KBC. I would like to express my gratitude to the CS, Information Communication and Digital Economy, and the Board of Directors for their confidence in me, and I assure you that I'll work tirelessly to uphold the values and missions of KBC. Now, KBC holds a critical role in our country. It serves as a vital source of information, education, and entertainment for our citizens. This platform is a platform that unites us. It fosters national dialogue and promotes inclusivity. Our national broadcaster has the power to shape opinions, challenge social norms, and inspire positive change. Our responsibility is to serve our citizens, ensuring our content is accessible, relevant, and engaging for everyone, regardless of age, background, or location. It is an honor to lead this organization and contribute to its growth and impact. I will be speaking more about what I'll be doing in the coming days, but then what I would like to do is, call upon the public to support us in creating a sustainable media ecosystem. We cannot fulfill this mandate on our own without your participation and feedback. I encourage you, the public, to engage with us, share your ideas, and hold us accountable. Your continued support and trust are essential to our success. We pledge to be transparent, accountable, and responsible in our operation, ensuring that our resources are utilized efficiently and effectively. Together, we can reemerge the role of KBC, ensuring that it remains a beacon of excellence, a champion of diversity, and a trusted companion for generations to come. So thank you for the trust you have placed in me. I'm excited to embark in this journey with you, and I'm confident that together we can build a brighter future for our national broadcaster and our nation. I invite all of you to join me on this journey as we work together to achieve our shared vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnes, and welcome again from the board. We wish you the very, very best. As we indicated initially, this is just a very general session to welcome Agnes to the KBC fold. We can take a question or two. We will not be getting into any technical details about strategy or operational issues at this point. We have to allow her a little bit of time to socialize herself with those issues. But we can take a generic question or two that one might wish to ask her. If there is none, we are happy to wrap up the session.
I am not sure too.
Yeah.
Can I check? Congratulations. My name is Gladys. I'm a news anchor and reporter in the Broadcasting Corporation. Probably my question, I'm not very sure that will be as technical, but probably what everyone is looking at this particular juncture, this is a process that has been ongoing, and finally we have an ending. And the question, besides KBC employees as well as the public outside there, because we get to interact with them, everyone is asking themselves, we have the lady has been presented, she'll be at the end, but probably from my side, and decided the public would want to know, besides the technicality of the strategies that may come later. You highlighted that KBC is a beacon in terms of matters to do with broadcasting, but you have an issue where we enjoy the aspect of wide audience. But if you look at it from, say, 2022 elections, KBC had somehow was around number 2 in terms of viewership, but that seems to have dwindled a little. So probably what I would want to get from you, what are some of the measures you'll be putting in place to enhance KBC's impact as well as influence in the broadcasting sector?
I think that's a great question. Yeah, allow me to settle in, get in. I have a whole strategy behind it that I will be communicating to the staff, and together I'm sure we should be able to get KBC to where ideally it should be. Like I said, a beacon of excellence.
Yeah, it is the biggest conversation around that. So probably just a little bit of patience will be what we ask for. Okay, guys, thank you so much. You will be seeing a lot of Ms. Kaleshe around, so please feel free to interact, but just allow her to settle in for the next couple of days. Asante sana.
Well, and that has been the handover of office of the Managing Director from the immediate past Acting Managing Director, Paul Mashera, to Agnes Kalechinguna, who takes over as the Managing Director of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and that was overseen by the Chairman of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation Board of Directors, Mr. Tom Mshindi. So my colleague Gladys Mungai will be giving you the story of that handover. We now take a break as we see the pictures coming through from the MD's office. So we take a short break and we shall be back with more conversations on Sports Check.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. Technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevakishwa.
Sile wakati tulikuwa tunaapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. My name is Daniel Wahome, and from a conversation about the business of sport, actually, it's a conversation first I'll just let my guest know about. We'll be talking more of that. One other story that we are looking at from our news cycle, there's the launch of the Human Development Report, so at the KICC, so that's one of the stories that we are keeping tabs on, and all those that are happening. And remember that it is now, how many days? 67 to the start of the Paris Olympics. That will be, taking place July into August. And Team Kenya preparations are there. And let's speak about that part of it with somebody who today will have two hats. I hope my producer, my director Brian, will allow her to put on the second hat as Secretary General of Tennis Kenya, because we are hosting the continent in just about 2.5 weeks' time. So we've got Wanjiru Mbugua, who's the CEO of Team Kenya to the Paris Olympics. Wanjiru, welcome.
Asante sana.
All right, first, we've had a conversation about the business of sport and the noise being made. How are you seeing the noise around Team Kenya preparations for the Olympics?
Well, good noise. Any noise is good. But no, Team Kenya preparations are ongoing, and we are not to be distracted by any noise. We are working very hard. We have a mission team led by our chef de mission, Shadrach Maluki. And we have a whole team and subcommittees all working very hard towards making sure the teams have qualified and then are well prepared.
Let's first talk a team that is currently in qualification, boxing. They've had, there was the African Championships, that was one. The second was in Italy and now to Thailand. Let's talk about how you've been working with the Boxing Federation of Kenya to ensure that the hit squad are ready for what I would say a very brutal qualification process.
Yes, it's indeed very hard, but I feel like the team is very well prepared. We've been supporting them. We supported them to South Africa, where they went for some events. We have also been supporting them as they're in camp in Mathare, and they're really psyched and very ready to go and qualify.
Boxing, one of the two sports that has brought an Olympic medal to Kenya, the other one being athletics, is how have you seen them responding and putting forward their proposals for the support from the National Olympic Committee that comes through all of this?
So in terms of support, they've been, let's just say this has been a very difficult year for boxing. Altogether from the IOC and their IF, and so this has kind of trickled down to the ground. So it's a difficult year to qualify for the Olympics, but as I said, they are still working very hard. They've been in camp for a couple of weeks now, and they're all set to leave this week.
So teams that have qualified, let's already start with this. Kenya's Shujaa qualified as African champions. Yesterday, we know they finished 5th in Munich, but now they're in Miramas. What more support will you be giving them, because they've got one more tournament and the Miramas camp? How are you working with them for ahead of Paris?
So Shujaa, yes, is one of our first qualified teams. So we've been walking hand in hand with them. The first thing we did is we've put them into training camp in Nairobi at Kasarani, where they were just before they left for Munich. And now we are very glad they've made it into their playoffs. And to prepare them for the playoffs, we have them working in Miramas, training in Miramas from they arrive today until the end of the week before they head on to Madrid for the playoffs. So I think in terms of support and being well prepared, we've done a really good job with Shujaa.
One of the things, everyone hears is Miramas, France, Miramas, France. Just give us a whole idea of this facility, of the facilities that are being offered in the city of Miramas to Team Kenya, because people probably think it's a sports complex. Is it something, an equivalent of a Kasarani or some other place?
Okay, yeah, so Miramas is, we have a partnership with the city of Miramas and the Athletics Club of Miramas. So with our partnership, they have provided facilities for us from all over the city. So you'll find the volleyball arena is in one, you'll find the racing track is in another, you'll find the rugby pitch is in another part of the city. They've been very gracious. They are able to give us, accommodation, transport, training facilities, organize for us if we need to move to other cities to play training matches. And yeah, so that has been our partnership with Miramas. Yeah.
And from those who've been there, the first time I think the name came across, we were talking about junior athletics teams. But for the teams that have had the opportunity to be there, what's the feedback that they're giving back to NOC?
So we've had, so Miramas is in two sets. We have the pre-games training, which is the training just before they move into the Olympics village. This is a kind of acclimatization camp. So this will be held from July, and all the teams will be able to pass through there before going to the Olympic village. But before that, what we've had is training camps, which have been held for the sprinters. We've had the sprinters go there. The feedback has been great. Omanyala was there himself also training. They have a wonderful new track which they put up just because of Team Kenya going there. So it's a great track. And then we've had 3x3 basketball also training there. We've had the sprinter, Priscilla, who was preparing for her qualifier, also there training. So in some instances, they even give us the technical assistance, like in Priscilla's case, where we had a coach from there who was able to also train her. Coming up shortly, we expect volleyball to go there. We also expect the sprinters to go back, especially the relay teams as they try to qualify the 4x400 relay team. Of course, the rugby, both rugby teams, Shujaa and Lionesses will be there this week. And yes, then we expect all the other teams, swimming, fencing, all to go now just before the games.
Well, you've mentioned fencing. It's very good that you've mentioned that. Alexandra Ndolo qualified in fencing. She has qualified, with the to represent Kenya for this. How are you working with her? Let me not go back to the past when she gave us a full insha. But how have you resolved? How are you working now with her to ensure that she's competitive and can probably even do the odd thing, bring us that odd medal from fencing?
Yes, so Alexandra Ndolo also, firstly, she's one of the athletes who's ensured that we fulfilled one of our goals, which was to increase the number of disciplines Kenya would be participating in Paris 2024. And so we are very excited that she has qualified. We've been able to walk hand in hand with her. She's an Olympic scholarship holder, given this scholarship by NOC to help her in terms of qualifying for this event. This started last year, can't remember what month, but last year. And now, or after she's qualified, she's very organized. So, and of course, the technical expertise, she has her own coach who's based in Germany. So they've given us a whole schedule that we shall be supporting. Some are training camps and some are competitions. Like this weekend, she was in Doha for the, what did they call it? Grand Prix, or can't quite remember the name. Where she was able to do extremely well and come 5th in that competition. So that's fantastic. And going forward, so some weeks she's in training camps and some weeks she's having competitions just to keep her sharp and ready for the competition.
Malkia Strikers. That is the team. I know that one of the teams that qualified. They qualified as African champions again. So let's talk about the kind of plan that they would have before, right here, and then taking them to Miramas as they prepare for the Olympic Games, knowing that it would be difficult to get a championship between now and end of June.
Yes, so for Malkia Strikers, we've more or less finalized the plan. Of course, right now they are currently playing their league events, and these are until the second week of June when they have their finals. So right now we know they are sharp and ready because they're in competition mode. Immediately they finish on the 10th of June, we shall be putting them in camp at Kasarani, where they shall have a 10-day training camp. And then from there, they have been invited to Philippines to play their World Championships. This just happened about a week or so ago.
The drama overshadowed such good news.
I know, but yes, having come out top in Africa during the qualifying ensured that, it is their right, and they received this.
Yes.
And we also support and feel that it's a perfect opportunity for the whole team just to come together and play a competition before Paris. Once they are done with that, they are looking at either going to Serbia for some more training and then come down to Miramas to do their last bit of preparation before the Olympics.
The marathon team the marathon teams were named because we know those ones have qualified already. The entry standards were known. So what's the plan to have these athletes train before they actually come to the others who are yet to qualify?
So in terms of athletics, yes, we are excited. Now we have our marathon team, a very strong marathon team, if you just see by all the news going around. And so they shall be training in their own individual camps. We are supporting them. We have a monthly stipend that we give them to support their physiotherapy, to support their going to the gym, their meals, their anything that they need in terms of preparation. We are already supporting that. And come this week, we shall also be supporting all the other events in terms of 3,000 meter steeplechase, the sprinters, the 1,500, 5,000, all the others. We shall then start supporting them and their coaches as they qualify for the games.
Well, we know that federations will have to be providing the coaches, so we'll be waiting for that announcement. I think one other, let's talk about Angela Okutoi, qualified and she has to gain what, 200, she had to gain about 200 points to be eligible for the games. How is this progress of Angela Okutoi, the African Games champion, going with her point system?
So again, the US, so she needed to fulfill her obligations to her university. And unfortunately, it was that semester where all athletes are required to play the NCAA conferences. So she was able to fulfill that obligation and then immediately start on trying to get herself to top 400. She's played a couple of events, and right now she's on her way to Tunisia. So with a couple of events, she has, so the number of points we need is about 60. She has about 10 from the last couple of events. Now she's finished with the US, which was a bit difficult for us to manage her when she was so far. But now her coach is in Tunisia, and she'll be flying to Tunisia so that she can start her events from next week. She has a W35, followed by a W50 in La Masa in Tunisia. So those are the two events we are hoping she'll do really well, and we'll give her the number of points to qualify.
Well, and we shall be looking out for that, because we'll be speaking about Angela later, because we've got the Billie Jean King Cup coming up also. And at that point, we'll also just get the explanation of the W35 and W50. Let's talk about who else looks to be on course for qualifying. Beach volleyball, they've felt hard done by the fact that the African Games are not part of the qualification process. But who else is on course? at the moment?
You're right. We have beach volleyball, big contender. They made it to the Olympics at the last Olympics. They are qualifying as one of the late qualifiers in June, but they've been training hard, and so those ones they have a good chance. We have, of course, boxing, which leaves for Thailand this week, also a contender. We have the Lionesses, who will be going to Monaco in the first week of June, and who else do we have? We have
martial arts.
In terms of martial arts, we have judo. Judo have applied for universality sport, so we are waiting for the outcome of that. They have one of the ladies who's top in Africa. She's, I think, number 3 in Africa. So we are hoping that she can get that universality sport. We also have swimming, of course, which is also gunning for, they still have some time to get their Olympic qualifying time, but failure to that, they shall also be applying for universality in July, at the first week of July. Of course, we also have athletics, where we have a 400-meter relay that we are looking to qualify in the next couple of weeks. We have some more athletes like Mweresa, who's also looking to qualify for his individual 400-meter run. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you 45 seconds flat is what Mweresa requires.
That's
right. Over the past week, he landed in Greece and went straight to a race, did a 46 point something, and later, I think on Saturday, he went 45.6, so he should be headed to that. Sprinters who all they have to do is make sure that they're healthy and they meet the category A criteria set by World Athletics in the Athletics Integrity Unit. Ferdinand Omanyala in the 100 meters, Wiseman Were in the 400-meter hurdles, Zablon Ekwame in the 400 meters, and they attend the trials that will be taking place in June. Now let's talk about what you have been doing in preparations for to work with federations, especially when it comes to travel logistics, such that a team is not, there are teams that really want just to be there for a very short time. For example, the marathoners, they want to be there for 3-4 days, and 2 days after the race, they're out. How's that being worked out?
So we are working hand in hand with the federations, because of course they know their sport best, they know their athletes best. So in terms of something, let's say like flight ticketing and just the transportation to the games, we give them a form to fill, and here they're able to tell us, this athlete, they will be coming from here, they will be heading here, we want them here on this day, they'll be at the Olympic Games for 2 days before they run their race. Every event has different schedules. Some may want, let's say like volleyball, want to be at the village 5 days before the start of their games so that they can test their facilities. Somebody like marathon, it is 2 days. So we are working with each federation, each event, to make sure we work according to their specifications.
In terms of logistics in Paris, I know it's a city that is busy, but also it's been reforming itself. I'll come to the second part about the green part. But what have the organizers of the games been passing to you in terms of logistical information, venues that are outside of the main stadium, which is the Stade de France, and where, for example, an event may be held just outside of Paris itself?
So yes, so they are very busy, and they are expecting a lot of people into Paris. It is one of the most popular cities already by tourists, so they're expecting a lot of people. So the logistics have had to be very tight. Some of the things they have told us is that they are zoning the city of Paris to ensure that traffic is able to move. They have told us, almost everybody will have to use public transport because otherwise the traffic will be too much. They have a designated Olympic lane where you have the teams and the dignitaries are able to use this Olympic lane to get to where they need to go. But also everything, centrally is around Stade de France, that area. The Olympic Village is around there. The swimming pool is around there. They have a lot of facilities around the same area. But it also means that you and me and, other people cannot just drive into those areas. There'll be a lot of walking to be done. And there are many stadiums also. They've tried to spread the others, like for football, yes. Basketball, just to take them out of the city. So if I was to choose other events which Kenyans are not participating in to go visit, those would probably be the best. When you go to Lyon or go to Marseille, where it will not be as busy as the center of Paris.
Well, you just mentioned that I have an idea of where the Stade de France is and how busy that northern part of France can be. Mm-hmm. So lots of working. The other thing is, and I would like to refer to an article that was done by the Secretary General, the SG put out yesterday.
Yes.
And one of the things he said, if you want to be a joyrider, you're on your own.
That's right.
Unapigiwa simu.
Yes, tunapigiwa simu, lakini our message is the same. If you want to come to the games, there is a system that you follow. You must pay your own tab. You must book your own tickets. You must book your accommodation to make sure that, you're there for Team Kenya. So we are encouraging those joyriders, the name that you don't want to use, but they must be able to pay their way. Everything that we have, anybody who's in our delegation has an official role, which is easily, like we'll be able to publish the list once it is confirmed and signed by the Minister for Sport. And everybody on that list will have a role. Either you're an athlete, you're a manager, you're a doctor, you're a sports scientist, you're a safeguarding officer, whatever your role is, it'll be very clear why you're going to Paris, and your job will be to support Team Kenya.
It is good that you've mentioned this, and we saw this come across from the last Olympic Games, not because there was a pandemic, but I think the National Olympic Committee of Kenya had put in what I would call the science part of it. So there was a strength and conditioning person who was to run the strength and conditioning program. Mm-hmm. There was somebody to run the medical program, and assisted by that's a doctor, and then there were physios and nutritionists and a psychologist. What's the setup for 2024?
So for 2024, we have gone a step further. We have formed this performance team way ahead of the games. This is headed by one of executive members, John Ogola. So he has a team of physios, he has a team of nutritionists, he has a team of psychologists, of sports scientists, of data analysts. He's put together this team to support any team that would like their support when they are going for their qualifiers or as they are preparing for the games. So every federation is aware and they are able to draw on the expertise of this team. So for instance, if they were at boxing the other day, and they needed nutritional support because they have a weigh-in factor to it.
Oh, a serious one.
Yes, so the nutritionist is able then to advise. When our athletes, our sprinters were going to Bahamas and they were worried about jet lag, this team was able also to come and give them a whole strategy on how to tackle jet lag. So the performance team has been working way before the games, and it will also be available to support during the games and during the camps prior to the games.
Looking at all of the responses, if you were to, because I think this performance team worked at Tokyo, then the Birmingham team, and now, what's been the response of the federations? Because we always want to find out what's the feedback they give and how they adopt to it.
Yeah, so increasingly, at the beginning was a struggle, because you can imagine we are telling you about a sports scientist and you have no clue about a sports scientist, or you cannot see how relevant they can be to you. But slowly, I think federations have begun to understand how important these people are. They've begun to understand what strength and conditioning is about and its place in protecting you from injuries. They have begun to understand what a data analyst does and how that data is important for you to make plans for the strategy on your pitch or your court. So I think this team, it's very welcome. It's been very welcome, and they have been extremely busy going around to the different federations supporting them.
The data analysts, just tell us about the role of that, because data analysis is something that is very, very rare in this country.
Yes.
In sports.
That is true, and it's actually a new addition for this year. So they are able to pick whatever data that the federations have. They're able also to support them in collecting new data from now and be able to tell them, okay, from the way we see this data tells us maybe your average age is this, or your we have realized when you have a certain what would you call it? If your pointers in terms of your strength and conditioning are this, it means the output is this. So there are very many angles to data analysis.
Well, very, very interesting that we've got that. So overall, delegations, I know there are two. I know the chef de mission at the moment is one person who you can only probably get on WhatsApp. He's either in Nairobi or he's in Paris because of the work that they're doing. Just give us a whole idea of the end of the qualification process for Team Kenya. I mean the qualification process, and how then the athlete will be processed for the games before they travel.
Sorry, say that again.
How the athletes will be, given the will be identified, especially those who are seeking universality, which is basically automatic slots.
That's right.
I know it may be one man, one woman.
Correct.
For swimming.
Yeah. And
one lady in judo.
Yes.
How then do you have them, get the right accreditation? Because early July will be about 3 weeks to the Olympics.
Yes, so what happens from the very beginning, in February, March, we were able to ask each federation to give us their long lists. And long list just means you give us a whole list of probables that you expect will qualify for the Olympics. And this went across all the Olympic sports. So each federation was able to give us that long list. So in terms of being covered in the system, they are all covered in the system. When it comes to universality, let's say for swimming, you'll find that it will be the person with the highest World Aquatics points, and the International Federation determines who those will be. From our end, all we do is apply for them, and then the IF determines who will get that done. But because their qualification is so late, we still work with a list of probables. The list of probables will still be in training. And that's the thing with the residential camp that we shall be holding. We shall include the probables, and we shall also include the training partners, just to make sure, everybody has somebody that is able to keep them training, keep them competition ready. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I remember 67 days to the start of the Paris Games. I have the number right here, because I know you have a clock in the office.
Yeah.
That keeps counting down.
That's right.
It's also on that side. And the numbers you're probably looking at, Kenyan athletes, I know the target is usually around 100 this year. How many are you looking at?
Our target is 80. We're currently at about 73. So you can imagine I'm rooting for lionesses and boxing and beach games. If they can all qualify, we can actually reach 100. Yeah, so we are doing well in terms of qualifications.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wanji. Now, I'm giving you an opportunity to change hats.
All right, let me hide my Team Kenya.
Yes, because the country is hosting Africa, and this is in the Pillaging Cup. Africa Group 3. Second time, we're doing 2 years in a row.
Yes.
I hope we become the permanent host for that. There's always an excitement that comes with these high-level tournaments. So we'll give you the highlights of the FKF Premier League match that was played over the weekend between Tusker FC and Kenya Police.
Ahlan wa sahlan, bila shaka ni raundi ya 31 ligi kuu taifa Kenya Police FC dhidi ya Tusker. Uwanja Polisi Sako, Jumamosi siku ya 18 mwezi wa Mei mwaka 2024. Timu zote mbili zinakuja hapa zikiwa zimefanya mabadiliko kadhaa. Mabadiliko matatu kwa upande wa Police FC, akiwa anaingia uwanjani mchezaji Duncan Otieno, Okoth na Onyango baada ya kupoteza mikononi mwa AFC Leopards. Upande wa Tusker wanafanya mabadiliko mawili ya lazima. Udoyo ako suspended na mchezaji Mwite Zakayo ana majeraha. Fabian Adikinyi na Lawrence Luvanda ndio wachezaji wawili ambao wanaletwa moja kwa moja kuweza kuhusishwa kwenye mchezo huu. Ni mchezo ambao bila shaka timu zote mbili manyapara, Edward Kari akija hapa akijua kwamba lazima aweze kutafsiri sheria zote 17 kiusahihi kabisa. Sofu nzuri kapigwa, picha nzuri zikapigwa pande zote mbili kuhakikisha kwamba kila mchezaji anaweza kupata kombo, na ndio Edward Karia akaweza kupuliza kipenga cha kwake. Zoezi la kwanza, shughuli ya kwanza ilikuwa ni kwenye mlango wa Tusker FC, lakini akatendewa madhambi mlinda mlango Mwite Brian Bwire.
Alikuwa amejipinda maridadi kabisa kijana Brian Okoth, hali kadhalika Kahata, lakini kibendera cha mwamuzi kaenda juu. Brian Bwire tayari alikuwa ashafanya maokozi hapo katika mlango wa timu ya Tusker.
Hili hapa ndilo tukio ambalo moja kwa moja litakuwa linazungumzwa. Mike Bwagi akaweza kuipenyeza kwa Eugene Sike, ushirikiano mzuri wa Sike, akaangalia pale katikati, amepanda vizuri mchezaji Charles Momanyi akakisha kwamba ule mpira alipotoka mlinda mlango Mwite Patrick Matasi akauweka pale. Makosa mengine tena hapa anayofanya Patrick Matasi, kosa la pili ndani ya mechi mbili, ndani ya mwajiri wake wa zamani bara FC Leopards, mara hii ni Tusker. Lakini ukiangalia Charles Momanyi yeye mwenyewe alikuwa labda hajajua nifanyeje, nishangilie ama ni nyamaza, lakini mwisho siku alikuwa ameweka uongozini tayari timu hii ya Tusker FC for you.
Momanyi alichokifanya ni yeye kwenda juu kutana na mpira ulioletwa na mchezaji Eugene Sike na kuwapatia furaha mashabiki wa Tusker.
Ili hapa lilikuwa tukio jingine kabisa. Mchezaji Eric Paito akajipinda vizuri, lakini mara hii kipindi cha pili akaja kwa uimara mzuri kabisa mlinda mlango Mwite Patrick Matasi. Ilikuwa shuti nzuri kabisa kutoka kwake mchezaji Mwite Eric Paito akitafuta goli lake la 12 la msimu.
Bila shaka shuti nzuri, fanya makuu mchezaji Kapaito.
John Jaguna akapiga makasia, lakini shoti lake licha kwamba alikuwa ametoka kwenye sehemu ya mapumziko, lakini mwisho siku shoti lake likawa linaingia kwenye mikono ya Patrick Matasi Musotsi, na hapa ni kusema kwamba mchezo kasalia tuna goli lake Momanyi. Police FC 0, Tusker 1.
And welcome back to Sports Check. Yes, and remember that you're not moving on to the Billie Jean King Cup, not seeing there. So, and this is a tournament that is basically the World Cup of tennis. That's
yes,
what you call it.
That is what it is.
And it is Africa Group 3. Kenya hosting it for the second time in a row. Wanjiru Mbogwa here is the Secretary General of that. So it's a very busy 3 weeks for her in terms, work-wise. First of all, Kenya bidding to host this. The other country that had put in a bid was Burundi, I think. But Kenya did win. Just give us a background of getting to host this tournament again.
Yes, we are hosting it for a second time. Last year was the first one Africa Group ever held, and tennis Kenya was at the forefront of pushing for there to be an Africa group. So it was only apt that they gave it to us to host. So that was fantastic. This year we put in the bid again because we found Kenyans actually loved tennis. They were there to support the girls every day. So we thought it would be a good thing to bring the BJKC back to Kenya again. So we put in the bid, and of course Burundi also has a top level player. So it was also in their interest that they are also able to try and put together this tournament. We got lucky, and we were given the event. And yes, and we were told because we ran such a good event last time, they are very happy to have us host it again.
Let's first of all talk about just to give to go back in time. is that you actually, Tennis Kenya had to talk with Nairobi Club about constructing, so to speak, proper clay courts.
Yes.
What was the experience of the players after the switch from what we call the usual Maram courts that we have?
The feedback from the players was excellent. They were excited. Some of them have played, having been Africans, a lot of them have played in Kenya before, so it was a pleasant surprise for them to find that we have clay courts. You know, the bounce is different, the feel of the court is different, and it is, clay courts are an international surface, so we also have confidence that, you know, we are giving the players the best surface that we can. So we really thank the Nairobi Club because they have been assisting us. They have assisted us also to keep maintaining the courts. You'll find like this weekend we had a meeting with them because, of course, with the flooding and everything, the courts have taken a hit. So we are working very hard from this week just to make sure we have done a resurface of the courts to make them good enough for the games.
Well, last year you set up, as the construction was being done, the drainage, an entire drainage system had to be set up to accommodate that.
Yes.
How well did it work for the course?
So it worked to a certain extent, but we found that the middle, the floods were a bit, you know, it was a lot of rain. So we had to redo some, add some more drainage. So that has been, that was done a couple of weeks ago as the rains were going, and that has really helped to drain the water. So in terms of drainage, I would say on that we are good.
Now, when it comes to this being referred to as a clay court, I'll tell you, it's actually true clay. And the people who are benefiting are not in Nairobi from supplying this clay. Wanjiru, tell us the story of this brick, about the bricks and the clay and the surprise, you know, use that people from Western Kenya got when they found out what you were doing with it.
I know, that was a good story. The clay courts are actually made of clay, but the clay is not just the clay you pick from the ground. It is best the clay that is burnt, and that is burnt using the, what do you call it, kiln?
Yes.
Yes, the traditional one, you know, the actual use of the fire. So these bricks are, so these are the bricks we buy. So we had to send people down to Western Kenya where they have, you know, all these places that you can buy these bricks from. And we bought truckloads and truckloads of these bricks, brought them to Nairobi Club, then we crushed them, and then we are able now to put them on the courts to surface them.
Well, and you can see the surface that is there is different from what you normally see. So it's on the screen. Team Kenya preparations, bronze medalists last year. And Morocco won the gold, Tunisia the silver. So what's the preparation for Team Kenya? We've got Angela's leading the side. There's Ha's twin sister, Rose Hilda. There's Alicia, Cynthia, and Melissa Mwaka and Stacey Yego.
Yes, so we have a great team once again, and led by Angela, of course, in the singles, and then we have Cynthia Cheruto coming in at number 2 and doubling very well with Angela. If you remember, they took the silver medal at the African Games, so they've had some good practice in the last couple of weeks. So this shall be the 2 leading the team. And to support them, we have Alicia Owegi, Rosalinda Asumwa, yes, who's Angie's twin sister, and we have a youngster, Stacey Yego, who's up and coming. We also have Melissa Mwaka, who's one of our golden players. Unfortunately, she's not able to join the team as she will be doing her final exams in Zimbabwe. But we always think of her as part of the team. So the team is exactly the same as it was last year, but with better experience. And in terms of training, we have, the team has been training here way before the African Games. They were the same team that went to African Games. We have 3 of them in the US. They've been training and playing events there, so we feel like they are very well prepared for this event.
The tournament format, just explain to us, when you have at least 8 teams, then how do you group them for the initial phase and then the knockout phase?
So we have 12 teams. It's one of the biggest group groups in a Billie Jean King Cup. So what happens is they are split into two. First they are seeded, and then they are split into two. Last year, coming into the event, we were second last in terms of points. This time we shall be third, so therefore we will have a seeding. So that the teams are split into two, where we play 5 matches each side. Then the top from each group will come and play together for a playoff. But the playoff is top and top, second and second, like that, to come up with a ranking.
Let's talk about the rubbers. Rubbers basically is one player, one. What was sports? You come up with terms. Anyway, so
Yeah.
say Kenya plays against Egypt.
Yes.
What will just put out the format it will be? 2 singles?
So, yes, so you play 2 singles and you play a double, and it's always very standard. So the first match in the morning is the second single, so the second players that you have, followed by your top players after that. And then depending, so during the playoffs, if you will need to play your doubles, because those points will be required. So it's 2 singles and a doubles for every tie that you play. And then at the very end, when you have the playoffs, then you don't need to play the doubles if you have already won 2 of the singles.
They say in sports they call it damage kingilioni bure. Just tell us, I mean, from the 10th of June, there are those who want to come in. What should they know in terms of accessing the place? And we can also talk about, those ticket prices.
Yes. So it's this year is very exciting because last year we didn't realize the large number of numbers we would get. So this year we are ready and well organized. We have a ticketing company, Ticket Yetu. We shall be releasing it today, how you can buy your tickets online, just to make sure there's smooth entry. Of course, it's at a club, so you must buy an advance ticket. The ticket will cost you 700 shillings a day, or 2,000 for the season ticket, and the season ticket will carry you for the whole 6 days. So we are calling upon all Kenyans, please come and support the girls. They are very excited, they are ready, they are, if you check Angela's post, you'll see just how important Billie Jean King Cup is for them. And if I may just mention, it is also an Olympic requirement that Angela plays in Billie Jean King Cup. So we also look at it as a qualifier that they must play to be able to be eligible to play for Paris 2024.
All right. Thank you very much. Wanjiru Mbogo, I remember from the 10th of June, the Billie Jean King Cup, the World Cup of Tennis, Africa Division 3. And when you go to the stands, please be silent. Sisi watu wa football, we can't survive there, but we will try however much we can when we get out there.
Wahome, let me correct you there. For team events, which is Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup, you are allowed to bring all the noise. That's why last time we had the Sikuti dancers and...
So Wimbledon is where we keep silent.
Exactly. But
tunakuja na Sikuti basi.
Mukuja na kila kitu, and remember to wear your Team Kenya shirt.
That I will do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. And well, it's been a pleasure being with you this morning. We're speaking the business of sport and also Olympic preparation and the Billie Jean King Cup, which Kenya is hosting, the Group 3 Africa. My name is Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter has been Ensa Odingo. Have a good afternoon. Coming up next, Tamrini with Gladys Mungai.
What does it take to overcome any challenge or fear in your life? On today's program, we travel across the African continent to hear from those who didn't let life bring them down and also overcame their own challenges. And I might just overcome one of my own fears, the fear of heights. I am Okeri Ngushinado, and this is the 77%. Bum, 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 bum. Have you ever come across people that tell you that your dreams will never come true or let fear get in your head? Well, I'm here at this bouldering station here in Bonn, Germany to overcome one of my own fears, the fear of heights. Well, come with me. Before I get started, I need the right equipment, starting with this bouldering shoes, but I still need a little motivation since I'm scared. But the next people in this report did not listen to the naysayers and became successful. I'm sure they can motivate you and also me.
I'm playing for 20 years now. I play in Nigeria, I play in Cote d'Ivoire, I play in Senegal. I'm a lion, you know.
I have gained confidence and self-esteem. Before, I was too shy to perform in front of people, but because of dance, I'm no longer afraid.
If you are disabled, that does not mean that you can't do anything.
Whether it's wheelchair basketballers of Benin, the breakdancers of Rwanda, or Ghana's amputee football team, these athletes have three things in common. They live for their sport, they all face stereotypes, and they are not letting their disability stop them. Participating in local or international competitions, they've mastered their craft and are using their bodies in ways which society and they themselves never imagined. Master MC contracted polio at the age of 2, leaving him with partial paralysis of his leg. For him and his team, gaining a place on the court was an uphill battle.
Before we have not the right to play here, but as we improve, as we show them that this wheelchair, this basketball in wheelchairs is not just something to relax, they see that, oh, we are some tag players, so slowly they give us place.
Wheelchair basketball has its own rules. Players can wheel their chairs up to 2 times before dribbling. A third push is considered traveling. An inclusive sport, wheelchair basketball can actually be played by anybody as long as they're sitting in a wheelchair and have arms to dribble and move. In amputee football, it's a whole different game. Only players who are missing a leg qualify, with the exception of the goalie, who is missing an arm instead.
We play with our leg, but if intentionally the ball touches the crutches or use the crutches to kick the ball, it's foul.